Welcome back, Deep Divers. Today, we're diving into a topic that honestly has had me a little intimidated. Plant guilds. I've been gardening for ages, but this feels like next level stuff.
I totally get it. Guilds can seem a bit, overwhelming when you first start looking into them.
Right. Like, do I need a botany degree or something?
Not at all. The beauty of it is you can keep it really simple or go super in-depth.
Okay, phew. So maybe let's start simple then. What exactly is a plant guild? I mean, like, in plain English.
Basically, think of it as a team of plants all working together. Like, imagine a forest. You've got those tall trees, then smaller trees, and shrubs underneath, vines climbing, stuff growing on the forest floor.
Right. Lots of different plants all mixed together.
Exactly. And they all kind of help each other out. It's like a whole ecosystem.
Okay, I can picture that. But my garden isn't exactly a forest. More like a postage stamp some days.
I hear you. But even in a small space, you can apply the same principles. We're talking mini ecosystems, but with plants we choose, not just random stuff growing wherever.
So it's like intentional companion planting.
Exactly, but taken to a whole other level. It's not just about, basil helps tomatoes or whatever. It's like building a whole community of plants with different roles, all supporting each other.
Interesting. So what kind of benefits are we talking about here? Why go to all this trouble?
Well, first off, you get more bang for your buck. Like, plants in a guild are often healthier, more vigorous, so you tend to get bigger yields.
More food? I'm listening.
Plus, the soil health improves dramatically. Different root systems doing their thing. Some plants add nitrogen to the soil naturally.
Wait, so I could cut back on fertilizers just by planting the right stuff together?
Exactly. It's all about working with nature instead of trying to fight it.
I like that. Sounds way less work, too.
Yeah.
What else? Any other benefits?
Oh, tons. Pest control is a big one. You create this diverse environment, attract beneficial insects, ladybugs, lacewings, all those good guys.
So instead of pesticides, it's like a bug buffet for the beneficial ones.
Pretty much. Plus, lots of plants have natural pest repellent properties, like marigolds, aromatic herbs.
Makes sense. So we're kind of building this little fortress of plants, protecting each other.
Exactly. And honestly, on top of all that, guilds just look amazing. So much more interesting than a plain old veggie patch.
True. I always love those gardens that are just overflowing with different plants. But there's a strategy behind it. Now I get it.
Definitely. And understanding the basics is where it all starts, which is what we're here to do, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got a general idea of what a guild is. Where do we go from here? What are the steps to actually build one?
Well, now that we know what we're aiming for, let's talk about some things to think about before you even start planting. Crucial considerations. So, like, ready to get your hands dirty and actually build some guilds.
Oh, absolutely. I'm already picturing it all.
Yeah.
But where do we even start?
Hold your horses. We need to pump the brakes a little before you go ripping out everything in your garden.
Oh, right. Planning first, planting later. Always forget that part.
Exactly. There's some key things to think about before we even get to the plant selection.
Okay, lay it on me. What am I missing here?
The big one is location. You got to know your site. Really know it.
Sunlight, right.
Yeah.
I've definitely learned that the hard way.
Yep. Sun, water flow, soil type, even wind can be a factor. All that stuff influences what you can actually grow.
Makes sense. Can't put a sunliver in the shade, that's for sure.
Exactly. Some plants are divas about drainage, some don't mind clay. It all matters.
So it's like a mini site analysis before you even get to the fun part.
Exactly. Figure out what you're working with first. Then you can think about specific challenges.
Speaking of challenges, let's just say slugs are my arch nemesis.
Yeah.
And my soil. Heavy clay all the way.
Ooh, yeah, those are tough ones. But see, that's where the magic of guilds comes in.
Wait, really? Plants can help with that.
Totally. It's like you're assembling a team of problem solvers. Slugs. Some plants attract the things that eat slugs. Birds, certain beetles.
Okay, now that is smart. Less work for me, right?
Yeah. Yep. And clay soil. Deep-rooted plants are your friends there. Comfrey, for example, can help break it up.
So it's not just about, pretty combinations. It's like strategic planting.
You got it. Each plant has a job to do. That's why knowing your site, your challenges, it's all crucial.
Okay, so location, problem solving. What else should we be thinking about?
Space. Most of us don't have acres and acres to play with.
Tell me about it. My garden is basically a balcony.
Right. So you got to maximize what you've got. And that's where this idea of the 7 layers comes in.
7 layers? What's that all about?
Think like a forest, but vertical. You've got your tall canopy, then smaller trees or shrubs, then a shrub layer, then herbaceous stuff, ground covers, even the roots are a layer,
Yeah.
and then vines and climbers using that vertical space.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot of layers.
It sounds more complicated than it is. You don't have to do all 7 at once, especially starting out.
Okay, good. Baby steps. But like, how would that actually work? In a real garden, I mean.
Okay, picture this. You're building a guild around, say, an apple tree. That's your canopy. Underneath, a nitrogen-fixing shrub, maybe gummy berry.
Oh, those are supposed to be tasty.
They are, and they help the apple tree too. Then a shrub layer, maybe some currants or raspberries. Below that, herbs, flowers, yarrow, chamomile, calendula.
I'm starting to get it. Like a little food forest, but in layers.
Exactly. And on the ground, something like clover, fixing nitrogen, keeping weeds down. Then the root zone, all that good bacteria and fungi.
Hmm.
And to finish it off, a vine, grapes, kiwi, something using that apple tree for support.
Wow, you've really thought this through. Okay, 7 layers. Got it. But isn't there like a zillion different plants you could use? How do you choose?
That's where companion planting gets really important. It's not just about layers, it's about picking the right plants for each one.
Right, right. So how do we know which plants are buddies and which ones, well, aren't?
You got to get to know them, their personalities. Some plants release stuff into the soil. It can help or hurt others.
Oh, wow. It's like they're talking to each other underground.
They kind of are. And some attract good bugs, some fix nitrogen. It's all about figuring out those connections.
Okay, so it's like a big puzzle, finding those plant combos that just work.
Exactly. Luckily, there's tons of info out there on companion planting. Books, websites, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Noted. My brain is already buzzing with ideas. But before I get too carried away, you mentioned something else we need to consider. Time.
Ah, yes. Time is a crucial factor, too. We're not just designing for space, but for the whole growing season.
Right, some plants are here and gone in a few months. Others stick around for years.
Exactly. And some, like lettuce, are fast, while fruit trees take forever to produce. So you got to think about when things are planted, when they're harvested.
Like a timeline for the whole garden.
Pretty much. And there's techniques like succession planting to keep things going all season long.
Succession planting, what's that?
You plant multiple things in the same spot, but at different times. Like radishes first, they grow quick, then tomatoes go in after.
Oh, that's clever. So
Yeah.
you're never wasting space.
Exactly. And then there's intercropping, where you mix different plants together in the same space.
Instead of just rows and rows of the same thing. But how do you know which ones will play nice together?
Same as with companion planting, you got to understand their needs. Tall stuff with short stuff, so they don't shade each other out, things like that.
This is getting deep. I never realized how much thought goes into it all. It's like a whole dance, all these plants doing their thing at different times.
That's a great way to put it. It is like a dance, and it takes practice to get the steps right.
Okay, so we've got location, problem solving, fitting it all in, and now the time factor. Am I forgetting anything? Is there anything else I should be considering? So much to think about. Location, the challenges, squeezing it all in, and now the timing of it all. Is there like a cheat sheet for this? Some kind of rule I can follow?
Actually, there is. It's called the Rule of 3, and it's a great way to simplify guild design. Basically, each plant should have at least 3 jobs.
3 jobs. Okay, I'm intrigued. Explain.
It just means, getting the most out of each plant. Don't just plant something because it's pretty. Think, okay, does this also attract pollinators? Does it repel pests? Can it act as mulch?
So multitasking plants. Gotcha. Any examples?
Oh, tons. Nasturtiums are a classic. Pretty flowers bring in the pollinators. But the leaves, they deter pests. And they can even sprawl and act like a living mulch.
Wow, that's a lot for one plant.
Right. Or comfrey. Amazing plant. It brings up nutrients from deep in the soil so shallower rooted plants can access them. Plus, you can use it for compost or even make a fertilizer tea from the leaves.
So it's like a nutrient miner, a compost ingredient, and a fertilizer.
Oh,
Okay, this rule of 3 is starting to make sense.
it's all about connections, right? The more you learn about what each plant can do, the better you get at putting those puzzle pieces together.
This is amazing. I'm so ready to get out there and start experimenting. Before we wrap up, though, any last bits of wisdom for our listeners? Anything you really want to emphasize?
I think the biggest thing is don't get too hung up on exact recipes or formulas. It's more about understanding the principles. Observe nature. See how plants interact in the wild. Then you can apply that knowledge to your own garden.
Work with nature, not against it. Love that.
That's what makes gardening so fun, It's a constant learning process. You're always experimenting, adapting. It's a dance, really.
Beautifully said. Well, this deep dive has been incredible. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge with us.
My pleasure. Hope everyone's feeling inspired to go out and build some awesome guilds of their own.
And that's a wrap, deep divers. Go forth and create those amazing plant communities. Happy gardening.